What's going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. In today's video, we're going to give you our stardom situm for week 2 of the NFL season for your fantasy football team. All that and much more coming your way right now! All right, Trash Talkers, let us know what players you have on your fantasy teams in the comments down below. Let us know which players you want to start and sit, and we'll try to help you out as best we can. Be sure to hit that like button and smack that subscribe button. Now, on to the show. All right, Nick, week 2 of the NFL is officially here, and for most fantasy football players, we have to take a look and see which players we want to start, which ones we want to sit. And this is always a big question and something that people scramble with at the last second. So we're here to help our fans and everybody who enjoys this show. So let's take a look at some of these players. And before we get started, I want to welcome Ian from the Fantasy 4-Pack. As you saw Matt Vitale here last week, Ian, also part of their show, is here to help us with our fantasy portion. Ian, why don't you introduce yourself and your channel?
How's it going? I'm Ian over here from the Fantasy 4-Pack. We are a fantasy-focused channel, really just diving into the minutia of fantasy on a week-to-week basis. I'm the host over there, hoping to bring some good insight to you all. If you're looking to find us after the show, you can find us on YouTube at the Fantasy 4-Pack.
Excellent. And we'll keep their YouTube link in the description below, so look forward to that as well. All right, so let's get started, starting with the quarterback position. Which player do you guys have starting for this week?
So for me, this one is, I think, more clear-cut than what a lot of people would be going with here. I'm really big on Jameis Winston this week. I didn't love what I saw out of Tannehill last week. It looked like he was disjointed, didn't quite have his offense all figured out yet. There was reports that Julio wasn't on the same page as Tannehill throughout the offseason due to his injuries in training camp and the preseason. Winston was incredibly efficient last week. He should be able to take advantage of this Carolina team. I don't see a lot of ways where it goes wrong there. I think I'm definitely targeting the touchdown upside with the Saints.
Yeah, I think that Jameis Winston has a lot of potential here. I mean, he really balled out against the Packers defense that, frankly, brought them to the NFC Championship game last season. I think that if he can do that against the Packers defense like that, he can easily take advantage of the Carolina Panthers defense. They have much less studs on that side of the ball this week around. So I think that Jameis Winston has a lot of potential there. I just worry about if they're going to start taking advantage of the wide receivers and tight ends that they have on the New Orleans Saints. I mean, they're not the biggest names. They're going to have some issues at some point. They're not always going to be wide open. So I just worry a little bit there, but I do think Jameis Winston, he has that rocket arm. He's got some speedsters. I think that he could definitely make some big plays happen, especially for fantasy.
Absolutely. And you guys talked a little bit about Ryan Tannehill and why he might want to be a sit for players this week. So, Ian, why don't you tell us a little bit about Tannehill and what really makes him a sit?
Sure. So I just don't love the matchup against Seattle. Seattle is looking to be more of a pace down team this year. Pete Carroll's talked about wanting to control the game through the running game as opposed to being more of an air it out offense like they were last year. That's also how Tennessee wants to play. So, on paper, this looks like it could be a sneaky shootout. You got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. You got AJ Brown and Julio Jones. But you've really got two teams that want to just, they want to win 13-10. They want to run. They want to run the ball and just kind of choke their opponent out. I don't want to have to target Tannehill in a potentially shaky matchup here anyway, where it could easily go and hit the under just because of how these two teams want to play. I'd rather try and take advantage of Jameis Winston, his propensity to air it out, his newfound efficiency, and obviously the bad Carolina defense.
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill. I mean, it's going to be a slugfest in this one, but I really think that the Tennessee Titans are going to try to maximize their usage of Derrick Henry. They want to have the ball as much as possible, and they want to make sure that Russell Wilson stays off the field. So you do that by running the ball as much as you can with Derrick Henry, bruising that defense. I think that's the only way the Tennessee Titans can come out victorious in this one. So I think that's their game plan going into this one. Tannehill, he's got Julio Jones, he's got AJ Brown, but we'll see if those two can improve in week 2. They just did not look right in week 1. Their chemistry with Ryan Tannehill was off. So I'm a little weary about that, and I'm going to stay far apart from Ryan Tannehill until I see some improvement.
Yeah, and that should help you guys with the quarterback position because if you don't have the Patrick Mahomes, the Aaron Rodgers, the Tom Brady's of the world, then you're looking to kind of supplement your quarterback position. And for me, in one of my leagues, I had Matt Ryan last week and it didn't go so well. And looking at some of these guys, I have to make a change, and Jameis Winston seems to be that guy. All right, let's move over to the running back position. Who do you guys have as a start for this week?
This was pretty clear cut for me as well. You don't start anyone against that Tampa Bay defense, and like I guess if you have to, I mean, you're going to start your studs against them. But Mike Davis is far from a stud. That Tampa Bay defense is absolutely smothering when it comes to the running back position. I mean, we didn't see anyone get it done against them last season. Zeke started off basically right where people left off against them last year with just doing almost nothing against them. 33 yards on the ground is pedestrian. Damien Harris is going to take advantage of a much weaker defense than the Jets. I would hammer that and trust that Bill is not going to sit him on the bench because he put the ball on the ground a few too many times.
Yeah, Mike Davis definitely a sit for me as well. I think he is just not going to get any production this week. It's going to be an all-out air attack for the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to be playing from behind pretty much the entire game. There's just not going to be many chances for Mike Davis to get any yardage on the ground. Even in the passing game, I just don't think that checking down to Mike Davis is going to be the best option. Matt Ryan's not going to be looking for him. He'd rather go to Kyle Pitts or Calvin Ridley or even Hayden Hurst. So I think Mike Davis is someone I would definitely stay away from. And like you said, Damien Harris, he's got a great week ahead of him. He had a bunch of touches last week against the Miami Dolphins, and this is the New York Jets. It's a much easier defense to go up against. Mac Jones is in his second game. They're not going to want to put a lot on his shoulders, especially in a game where they have a path to an easy win. Damien Harris is going to be a workhorse this week, and I think that it's going to lead to a lot of fantasy points.
All right, so you guys talked about Mike Davis versus Tampa Bay, but what makes this matchup so hard to look at any running back? I mean, Mike Davis was taken pretty early in most fantasy drafts, so why would anybody who took him pretty early want to sit him?
It's just the strength of that D line. They showed us what they could do all last year. No one was able to get anything going against the ground against them. Uh, we're kind of regardless of how good the running back was, and Mike Davis is far from a good running back. Uh, and then they brought back all of their defensive starters. This is the exact same defense as last year that just absolutely smothered people. You gotta start people like Zeke against them, but when you're looking at a more mid tier play like a Mike Davis, just leave him on your bench. Go find a better play. Start an Elijah Mitchell or start a Tyson Williams.
Yeah, I agree. I think Mike Davis, it's not just Mike Davis. I think that he's a solid running back. This just isn't the week to play him. He's going to have better opportunities moving forward. But Tampa Bay, I'm really not starting any running back in this situation against Tampa Bay. I just don't think that the odds are on your side. Mike Davis just not going to get the looks, especially in that Atlanta Falcons offense. They're going to be playing from behind in most games. Mike Davis, he can catch a lot of balls out of the backfield, but there's a time and a place for it, and it's not going to be in this game.
All right, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. Who do you guys have as a start sit here?
For this one, I'm targeting Mike Williams. I guess I'm taking all the players in the left column today, but that's a big pace up matchup for me. Those are two teams that are going to be wanting to air it out. Neither defense looked particularly intimidating last week. It's got a 55.5 point total, and the Chargers are favored in this one. So like they're gonna have to hit that high total somehow. It's gonna be mostly through the air. Right now, it's just Keenan Allen that's getting the lion's share of the targets. The rest of them have to go somewhere. Eckler didn't catch any last week. I don't expect that to keep going, but as for right now, it's going to be Mike Williams for me. That's going to be the guy, at least until he gets hurt, because he has big play potential. He's shown he has the skill to end up as a wide receiver one on any given week, and I just don't believe that I don't believe that Pittman is going to be able to get it done against the Rams. So it's as much a fade Pittman as it is a get on Mike Williams.
Yeah, I think Mike Williams, he's got a plethora of opportunities in this one. Dallas versus the Chargers is going to be very similar to Dallas versus Tampa Bay. It's going to be an all-out air attack. I think that this is going to be a high-scoring game. And when you look at the Dallas defensive line, they lost to Marcus Lawrence. So their pass rush is weakened very much. Justin Herbert's going to have more time in the pocket. Mike Williams is a deep threat. He's going to get open against these receivers. You're going to see Trayvon Diggs versus Keenan Allen. You're not going to see a big-name cornerback against Mike Williams. There's nobody out there that can go and match his size and his vertical ability. I think that he's going to have so many opportunities, especially in the red zone. He's going to have a great fantasy output. I think this is a great week to start Mike Williams.
And then for your sit, who do you guys have?
Oh, so I mean, I'm definitely sitting Michael Pittman for that one. Like it's no question for me. I didn't love what I saw out of that Colts team last week as it pertained to wide receivers. The Rams defense, I think, is going to be better than what it showed against the Bears, and this is going to be another week where it's going to be the running backs utilized heavily. They just paid Nyheim Hines. They obviously spent a high pick on Jonathan Taylor a year ago. Those two guys combined for almost 45% of the targets last week. I don't want to risk it with Pittman against a good defense. We talked about it on our show, but actually on the episodes that came out today. But he's a potential cut for me if he doesn't do anything this week because of how little he was utilized last week. If it comes out 2 weeks in a row that he's doing that, he's not just a sit; he's off my roster.
Michael Pittman's in a bad spot this week. He's facing the Rams, and if we look back to last week, Allen Robinson not only had a poor performance fantasy-wise, but he had a limited route tree. He was not getting many looks because he was facing Jalen Ramsey the entire day. Michael Pittman versus Jalen Ramsey is going to be even worse. I think that he's going to get less looks. He's not going to be the focal point of this offense at all. They're going to try to use their running backs as much as possible to keep that fantastic Los Angeles offense off the field. It's just not going to be a great matchup for Michael Pittman. I just don't think that this is one match I would start him in. And again, like you said, Ian, I'm going to stay away from Michael Pittman until I see some improvement.
All right, and then to round it all out, let's talk about some tight ends because obviously those are fantasy winners. Let's start off with the stardom for this week.
I mean, you joke that they're fantasy winners, but finding one who can break out is a significant edge in fantasy, and I think that Noah Fant presents a good chance for fantasy managers this week to be that guy. He's obviously a third-year tight end. Third year is the hot breakout year for tight ends for whatever reason it takes him that long to learn the game, and he has the benefit of coming into this Broncos offense that is now sans Jerry Judy, who should have been their target leader this season. Unfortunately, we all know he went down with that nasty high ankle sprain. It's going to keep him out at least 6 weeks. That's going to open up a lot of targets in this offense that I think Noah Fant is going to step into. Being the athletic freak that he is, he should be able to run a lot of the same routes that Jerry Judy ran, maybe not to the same level of proficiency, but at least sort of fill that void, especially while Cortland Sutton is coming back from his injury last season. Jacksonville is a terrible defense. I have full faith that Noah Fant can get it done against them. I really like him as a spot start at tight end both this week and over the balance of the season.
Yeah, I think before we saw Kyle Pitts come into the league, we were saying Noah Fant has the potential to be another Darren Waller, and we're starting to see that he's getting the looks with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, and we're going to see it in this matchup against Jacksonville with that depleted roster on the defensive side of the ball. Noah Fant's going to be a bigger target. He's going to get the opportunities. As long as he can stay healthy, this guy is going to ball out for you. I think he has a massive ceiling, and I think that he could reach it in this year's offense. I think that Noah Fant is definitely someone to not only start, but to definitely keep your eye on if you don't have him on your roster.
Yeah, and then for a sit-em, who do you guys have? Because this guy is the bane of my existence.
I want to like Goseki. I want to like him so bad, but I cannot get behind Mike Goseki this week. That Buffalo defense I think it's exploitable, and I do think this game could be a sneaky shootout. But if it's a sneaky shootout, it's not going through Mike Goseki. Will Fuller's coming back this week. He got to practice with them all off season. He had a 1-week suspension due to his PED issues last year. That's up now. That means that he's joining an already talented receiver core with Waddle and Parker out there, and I fully expect the offense to flow through him and those other two receivers. On top of that, you just look at what this Buffalo defense did against Pittsburgh's tight ends last week, who are, Freiermuth is considered a pretty good pass catching tight end. Ebron's always been a good pass catching tight end. They combined for 2 catches last week. I don't want to target tight ends going against Buffalo at this point in time, and especially not in a matchup where his team has such a messy target tree.
Yeah, Mike Goseki's got a bad matchup. Buffalo's got some great linebackers, some great safeties that have known him all too well. This is a divisional matchup where we've known Mike Goseki not to do well. We know that they're going to try to utilize their new addition of Will Fuller and Jalen Waddle, as we saw last week, much more than they are the tight end position. I think that they're going to try to keep Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs off the field as much as possible. I could definitely see the running backs getting their fair share of not only touches, but looks out of the backfield as well from Tua Tagovailoa. I think this is just going to be a bad matchup for the tight end position from Miami. I think you really need to look in another direction if you have him on your roster.
Yeah, Mike Kasaki really screwed the pooch with my team last week, as the big old donut that he put up really just sent me flying, and I almost lost my matchup because of it. But he's no longer on the team, so if you're thinking about adding Goseki, don't, trust me. All right, and before we head off, before we end today's video, I assume that you guys have a flex play that you guys want to talk about a bit.
Yeah. So I'll talk about Devonta Smith for the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the San Francisco 49ers. He's a guy who very highly drafted in the actual NFL draft, drafted to be the Eagles' #1 receiver. Not getting a lot of respect in fantasy circles, coming in as ECR's wide receiver 30 this week. So pretty far down your boards, and he's being looked at next to guys like Cortland Sutton and Chase Claypool, Brandon Cooks, Mike Davis, just a bunch of guys in the kind of crap section of the rankings. He presents a lot of upside this week, in my opinion. I mean, this is a Philadelphia offense that clearly wants to play faster than they have in the past. Jalen Hurts looks like a legitimate quarterback. He was making all the throws that we want to see real quarterbacks make, able to hit his targets at all different levels of the field. And they're getting a 49ers defense that's more bark than bite. I mean, Jason Verrett's done for the foreseeable future, and he was the far and away the best cornerback on that team. Without him out there, Goff was able to go out and light this defense up to the tune of 338 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't see any reason why the Eagles aren't going to be able to have a comparable performance. Devonta Smith presents legit 100-yard and multi-touchdown upside this week if things break his way. He needs to be in your lineups if you have him on your team.
My flex start for this week is going to be Jamar Chase. The Bengals are facing the Chicago Bears. Looking back at that Sunday Night Football game where the Bears faced the Los Angeles Rams, that defense got absolutely torched by Matthew Stafford. All those receivers getting deep looks. I think that this is going to be a very similar situation. Cincinnati Bengals offense is for real. They've got a ton of deep weapons. Jamar Chase is somebody that they don't have a lot of tape on. It's going to be hard to scheme against him, and I think he's going to get a lot of good looks. Without Kyle Fuller there, this defense is not going to play the same. They already have shown that, and I think Jamar Chase is going to be one of the big deep threats for Joe Burrow. They have that LSU connection. I think it's going to continue in week 2, and your Jamar Chase is going to continue to be the breakout rookie in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, I really like those flex plays, and I have both of those guys throughout some of my fantasy leagues, so I'm definitely looking to put them in the lineup this week and really get after it. But like I said before, I want to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments which players you want to start and sit, and we will help you out as much as possible. And as always, go check out the Fantasy 4-Pack. Ian and Vitali and Frankie do an incredible job over there. They have all your fantasy information and all your fantasy needs, so be sure to check out their video. Hit the like button, the subscribe button for them as well, and tell them that we sent you. All right, well, that's going to be all for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.